Yeah, I think the gun was really important. The shotgun is so iconic to Claire, and they were slightly worried that physically it'd be really hard to shoot a movie carrying a shotgun the whole time, but it was something I really wanted to do and I insisted on, because I think it is such an important part of her image from the games. The jacket, like I said, we worked on really, we went through maybe 6 or 7 different styles and colors and tone, agreed with. Probably the hair, the ponytail. Like I said, we tried the ponytail, and the second that we had any rain, I just sort of looked like a drowned rat. And we wanted her to stay strong and to not be distracting and have bits of hair stuck on her forehead. So we did that. Also, we've given her a little bit more of a childhood backstory. It was one day where we were rehearsing and I thought the stunt guy hadn't been to makeup yet. And as I ran down the hallway, he jumped at me and he'd already had his prosthetics put on, and I absolutely shit myself. I was terrified. And so they did such an amazing job of really kind of getting that look down. So that to me was amazing to see, because they still felt human. They still looked human, just a very terrifying version.
My first interaction with Resident Evil was when I was way too young, but I think I played it when I was about 9 years old, and I was sitting in my basement and the dogs jumped through the window and scared the hell out of me. And that kind of stuck with me for a long time. But, I do like being scared. I like haunted houses. I like amusement parks. I like that sort of thing. So I've continued to play the franchise. My buddy Sean Roberts was in the Mila Jovovich Resident Evil movies. So I've seen all of those, and I loved, watching him experience that. And, I just feel very lucky to be a part of this now. I mean, it's such an iconic moment from the games, and it's such an important moment for the movie. It's the first time that Chris encounters a zombie. This thing turns around and it's that moment of like a million different thoughts. Like, what the hell is this? What's going on? Do I shoot it? What is it standing on top of? And then you don't have any time for any of that because you're just frozen. You're a deer in the headlights, and then it comes at you, and that's when the instinct and everything kicks in. Walking into the Spencer Mansion for the first time was unbelievable and something I'll never forget. I mean, it is so straight out of the video game. It's beautiful. It's scary. And it's just like, I've been transported from my basement playing in the dark to standing there, and it's very surreal.
Earliest memory for me is back in 1996 was playing a computer game. It was the first time I'd ever really been truly frightened playing a game and having that feeling I'd got from a horror movie while playing a game. And in that moment, I kind of knew, obviously not knowing the future of how big this thing would be, but I knew how defining it was in gaming. It was like the first of that kind of game, that horror element of a game. And then it kind of became something you start to refer back to. If there was another game coming out, it was always like, it's Resident Evil-esque, like it's a bit of a Resident Evil type of game. Oh, the sets and the props for sure. Yeah. The sets were pretty amazing because they were so, in sync with the game. So we were always given these reference shots of which shot from the game was taken. And also, like, I grew up through the 90s, so seeing all this 90s stuff around and living in a set which is all 90s, it was great, and reminded me of how little technology we had through those times and how simple life was. It's like, we should go back to this. This is so much easier.
Yeah, for me, I grew up playing Resident Evil titles. I've logged hundreds of hours on Resident Evil 4, I'm sure. And to Tom's point, it's a genre-defining video game title. It's it is the epitome. It's the jump-off point for a whole genre of video games, and like up at late at night watching, trying to like, oh, should we go around the corner? Is it too scary? That sort of experience of playing together and being terrified together is such a great thing and such a part of the history of the franchise. And so yeah, that was my earliest memories, are being terrified with my cousins playing in a basement playing Resident Evil. So I think my favorite prop has to be is just seeing it's so subtle. It's such like true fans of the series, but just the herbs that are littered around the whole the set. You have like, the healing herbs are just out there, and the typewriters like that's in the lobby where it's supposed to be of the precinct. It's super. That sort of stuff is like, for me as someone who played all the games and is a nerd about or just in general, I love video games. That was the coolest thing for me, I think.